So, as I mentioned earlier, we're in week 3 of this 2020 vision, living a God-changed life. And as I mentioned the other weeks, this is about having a personal vision and God's personal vision for your life and your personal vision, much more so than what it is for a church vision. Because what Jesus asked his disciples to do, what he asked us to do, is to go and make disciples. He didn't actually ask us to go and build churches, even though we're involved in his building of the church. He said that he will build his church, and we go make disciples. So we make disciples, he builds the church. And so the focus of this is by and large on your walk, your life with Jesus, and you living the God-changed life, rather than a number of weeks setting out a vision for a church. And it's not that that's a bad thing at all. And our church does have a vision to connect people with Jesus so that they become worshipping disciples that make disciples. And we talk about church vision, but this is about your life. And this is about putting things into practice in your own life so that you can live the way that Jesus teaches us to live, and the way that Jesus, by his Holy Spirit, changes us to live. Last week we talked about friendship, and we talked about relationships, and we talked about God's principles for relationships that were displayed for us in this encounter between Rahab the prostitute in Jericho and 2 spies that came and stayed with her in Jericho, were hidden by her in Jericho. Can you imagine if everywhere you went, you were known for the kind of relationships you had? Can you imagine if in every single part of your life, people said of you, they do friendship, they do relationship, they do everything different to everyone else. You do everything different to everybody else. Can you imagine what would be said, what would happen for Christianity and for our church, perhaps? We're not, as I said, we're not talking about church vision, but can you imagine if every member of Mawson Lakes Community Church will all know, not just the way that we all are, I hope, but for really standing out from the crowd, for being so different that people couldn't help but notice. We've talked a little bit about success and over the past few weeks. One of the things the research tells us about success is that about 87% of our individual success in life is actually determined entirely by our relationships. And only 13% is determined by our skills, our knowledge, our abilities. 87% of whether we do well in life is determined by our relationship, and only 13% by our skills. Yet we put probably 80% of our time into gaining new skills, and only 20% of our time, if we're lucky, into becoming better at relationships. Living relationships God's way. In fact, most of what we talk about for Christian discipleship, Christian living, is about knowing what's in the Bible, or knowing theology. And very little time in most places is put into living relationally the way that Jesus teaches us to live relationally. One of the things that all of us probably know about relationships is that, without wanting to actually speak negatively of people, but this is just the way it is, most people, when they engage in relationships, are interested in one person, and that's themselves. And that's, I'm not saying that to belittle anyone or to belittle myself or any of you. It's just that our frequency constantly in life, if we are like everybody else, is tuned into the radio frequency WIIFM, which stands for What's in It For Me. Isn't it true that when we talk to someone, particularly when we meet someone new, we're thinking to ourselves, what will they think of me? Did I say the right thing? Did I offend them? Will they, particularly if you're in a professional setting, will they see me as an expert? Will they see me as someone who knows what they're talking about? Are we going to become friends, or is this person going to hurt me? All of those things come through our mind when we meet someone new. But putting the focus on someone else and having our lives about other people instantly causes us to stand out from the crowd. Because everybody else is thinking about themselves, everybody else is insecure, and that's where that comes from, is a lack of security. And so as soon as someone in a room is secure enough to put their focus on everybody else, instantly they stand out. Because people don't necessarily know how to describe it, they don't necessarily know how to do it themselves, but they can tell at some level when someone has security. When someone isn't worried about how they present. When someone isn't worried about how they are with others and whether everybody likes them. People can tell when someone in a conversation decides that they don't have to be the special one. Decides that they don't have to be the important one. Decides that they can be someone who deflects attention onto others. Decides that they can be the one who is encouraging others. And here's the thing about this, is most of us hate doing this because we don't feel anymore like the most important person in the room because we're deflecting attention and making everybody else the most important person in the room. But when we do this, we become the most important person in the room. And this is how Jesus lived. This is what Jesus did. Is that everywhere Jesus went, he didn't act as if he was the most important person in the room, but everywhere he went, he was the most important person in the room. And if you become consistent in living this way, you'll become known like Jesus was known. And we'll talk more about why that's okay, because that might make some of us feel uncomfortable. Jesus shows us how to live in relationships. And he shows us how to live in every single one of our relationships. He shows us what this looks like, and it's displayed in this passage. And he has a deliberate, intentional strategy that he goes into every single relationship with. And if Christians, if you emulate Jesus in this way, it will change every single relationship you have. And you'll become known for it. And people will recognise it even if they don't know how to describe it. And for those of you who are looking to become more successful and have a better marriage, have a better family life, do better in your career, wherever, it will make a difference. If you think about this, let me put it this way. Last year, some of you know, I was teaching a leadership course to a group of Arabic migrant women, many of whom are from Syria. And we're talking about leadership, we're talking about putting a spotlight on other people, and they said they've never seen leadership like that from their rulers in their country. The rulers in their country, and the rulers in so many places around the world, they think it's all about them. And they think it's all about holding on to their power, and they think it's all about maintaining everything for themselves. And of course, people do what they say, and people obey them with their actions, but they don't have people's hearts. They set up dynasties that are all about the ruling class. But Jesus goes and does the exact opposite. Jesus comes and he spends 3 years training and empowering and developing a small group of people, really, in the end. A very small group of people. And then he says, I'm off. You go do it. I've taught you how, now you go live as I lived. I've lived this way, now you will be able to live as I have taught you to live. Jesus lives in obscurity. Jesus lives in a small nation. Most of his time is spent out in the country. He doesn't travel far. He never goes to any of the major powers of that time. He never goes to Rome. He never goes to Egypt. He never goes to Babylon. And he has, during this time, his focus of invest and grow the people around him. Believe in them. And see what happens. In the text we have today that Nico read for us earlier, the entire ministry of Jesus is captured in the space of 10 verses. The entirety of who Jesus is and who he claimed to be and how he wants us to live is just held brilliantly in one small encounter. So we're going to check out what Jesus does and what Jesus says. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead, climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." You only ever stay at someone's place if you valued them. You would never enter the house in that time of someone you didn't value. In fact, the same is true today. You don't go and visit someone you don't want to relate with, that you don't trust, that you don't want to be with, that you don't think can be somebody. You never do any of those sorts of things. And he's in Jericho, of course, and Jericho, as we heard last week, was destroyed. One of the things you might not know about Jericho is that Joshua, after the Battle of Jericho, said, "This city is never to be rebuilt. And cursed be anyone who rebuilds it." And yet here is Jericho. And here's something that we all know about Jesus, and that we talk about a lot here, we talked about last week, that Jesus has faith in the poor and lowly. Jesus has faith in the poor and lowly. Jesus shows up, God shows up in the places that we think God never belongs. God shows up in places in your life too where you think you might not belong. God shows up in the things of our life that we think God has nothing to do with, that we think God shouldn't be interested in, that we would rather God doesn't access. Whenever God shows up in a place that we don't think God belongs, God comes to bring a change. A change for the better. But he does so, and this is worth knowing for when God does show up in a place in your life that you'd rather keep hidden. God shows up to bring loving change, kind change, gentle change, healthy change. As people who have Jesus living in them, you should know this about yourself. There are people who think that you have no business in their lives, either because they might not want you there, or because they see you as too good to be involved with them. Their view of themselves is really low, but their view of you is really high. And if you don't know this, this is worth reflecting on. There are people who think the world of you. There are people who look up to you. There are people who admire you, that you can play a significant difference in their lives. And you might not ever have thought of that. When I say that there are people who admire you, some of you have the thought come into your mind of, well, who am I? Why would people? Do they not know about all the junk I have in my life? Do they not know about the mess that my life is? But there are people who look up to you. And those, because they look up to you, because they see you as a significant person in their life, you can influence them in an amazingly profound way and make a huge difference in their life. Some of those people are rich. Some of those people are powerful. And I thought long and hard before I talked about this, and I thought this is actually the point of what Jesus is on about in today's text, and what Jesus wants us to know. One of the points is that Jesus has faith in the poor and lowly, and also in the rich and powerful. Last week, Jesus has faith, God has faith in a prostitute, Rahab. This week, he has faith in a rich, greedy, powerful man, the kind of person that you and I normally hate. And Jesus has faith in Zacchaeus. Jesus looks at Zacchaeus and says, I'm coming to your place. I'm going to come and be with you. I'm glad that Jesus has faith in the rich and powerful, because how I often think about rich and powerful people, I have no doubt, is how plenty of poor people think about me. Because as we say here, if you live in Australia and if you especially live in Mawson Lakes or somewhere nearby, by world standards you are rich and powerful. By world standards you are rich and powerful. And there's a good chance that plenty of people think of you as rich, powerful, and greedy. We hate that word when it's described about ourselves, but we're quite free to describe it about others. And greed never applies to ourselves. We never see greed in the mirror. When we look in the mirror, we don't go, there's a greedy person. But when we look in the newspaper, or when we watch TV, or we go on Netflix, or whatever it happens to be, we go online, we see greed in other people, but we never see greed in ourselves. And the rich and powerful and greedy are people who are always more rich and powerful and greedy than us, but we forget that about 97% of the world's population is less rich and less powerful than us. And so there's every chance that they see us as rich and powerful and greedy. I don't say that to condemn any of us, but to encourage you that Jesus has faith in you, and Jesus has faith in me. One of the problems, of course, when we talk about rich people and their problems is what pops into my mind. I'm sure it pops into yours. When someone's talking about rich person's problems, we go, oh, poor them. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a rich person's problems? Yet Jesus is interested in a rich person's problems. Jesus is interested in your problems and my problems. What happens when we say, oh, poor them, is that we stop loving them. We stop loving them the way that Jesus loves them. We stop seeing what's possible. We stop engaging with them where they are. We stop seeing them as people who need redemption just like we need redemption. We might even stop seeing ourselves as people who need redemption as well. Jesus sees a rich person. Jesus actually sees a person who can make a difference in the world. That's what Jesus sees. Jesus sees someone who has resources. Jesus has someone who has material resources. Now, Zacchaeus is spiritually poor. There's, of course, many different types of wealth. But when someone has material resources, that person is a person who can make a big impact in our world. And here's where it all comes into play for you and me, is that we all need someone who invests in us. Perhaps not financially, but with their time, with their love, with their expertise, with their desire to make a difference, with just their friendship. And so Jesus looks at Zacchaeus and says, here's someone that I can invest in, and he is someone who can invest in the lives of others. Jesus sees both things at once. All of us have something that really matters to us that we want to do or we want to achieve. And Jesus sees what's going on for Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus, all his life, has been wanting to be a somebody, just as we talked about last week. And Zacchaeus, though, is a nobody. But then all of a sudden, Jesus makes Zacchaeus a somebody to him. And Zacchaeus realizes at this moment that Jesus says, I'm coming to your house. Zacchaeus says, somebody has made me a somebody. Somebody sees me as someone worthwhile. Someone sees me as someone worth spending time with. not for their sake, but for my sake. And this is what Jesus does. He turns nobodies into somebodies. Because this is perhaps the first time in Zacchaeus' life that someone be's a friend to Zacchaeus and not wanting to get something out of him. Because this is one of the problems that rich people have is, why are people friends with them in the first place? Are they friends with them in order to get something out of them? Is that why they're friends? I like reading books written by people who have been highly successful. And one guy, when he was young, he had another rich person come alongside him and say to him, look, you're going to be very successful, I can tell, and I want to invest in you and be your friend, but you need to know this. You're going to have to learn how to pick your friends. Because there are people who are just going to want to use you and abuse you for their own fame, their own success, and to take from you. And that's the life that Zacchaeus lived, is that they either hated him or they loved him, but they loved him for their own sake. Their antenna was tuned into WIIFM, what's in it for me. So people say to Zacchaeus, why is Jesus going to spend time with a sinner? He's going to be the guest of Zacchaeus, a sinner. And Zacchaeus stands up in this moment and he realises that everyone still views him as a nobody. Jesus declared him to be a somebody, but Zacchaeus realises everyone still sees him as a nobody. But here's the thing about Jesus seeing you as a somebody: you become someone. And so Zacchaeus starts living up immediately to the reputation and the image that Jesus has of him. And Zacchaeus does something that was unthinkable and potentially ruined him. Zacchaeus says, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. If I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Zacchaeus could have just paid back those that he'd wronged. Just the amount that he owed them. Maybe like a good tax man, he might have agreed to CPI interest. Who knows? But he says, I'm going to pay back 4 times as much. And I'm going to give half of everything to the poor. Zacchaeus starts living like someone who belongs to God. And Jesus sees this, of course, and Jesus says, today salvation has come to this house, for this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. There's a problem with how we hear that verse and how that verse is preached on. Often we only focus on the fact that Zacchaeus was lost. And it becomes just about salvation. And yes, salvation's in there, but it's more than just Zacchaeus now gets to go to heaven. Zacchaeus' very nature gets restored, which is to be a son of Abraham. And you are sons and daughters of Abraham as well. And so you're blessed to be a blessing. Zacchaeus' true identity gets restored by Jesus. And Abraham wasn't just to be God's chosen person and God's chosen nation, but Abraham was called by God to receive blessing in order to bless others. To be a blessing by his presence and to be a blessing by what he gave. And so Zacchaeus rediscovers his purpose because Zacchaeus rediscovers his identity. Zacchaeus discovers that he's to be a generous person, that he's to be a giving person, that he's to stand out from everybody else around. Because can you imagine how much Zacchaeus stood out once he gave like this? Can you imagine anyone standing out when they give like this? During the week I read a article that listed the companies and the individuals who gave significant amounts of money or have given significant amounts of money with the bushfires, to help with the bushfires. And the company's giving money, that's all great, because they're just giving out of plenty of cash that they've got left over. They're just giving out of profit. But some people have given well over $1 million. And that still might not be perhaps that big a deal to them. I don't know how much money they have. But it's when an individual gives in their own name and in their own power that I sit up and take notice. I'm sure you sit up and take notice as well. When an individual says, I'm going to do something about what I see before me. I'm going to make a difference. And it's great, again, we said earlier in the service when people give these one-off amounts, but do you know what's really life-changing? Is when people live a life of ongoing giving. And it's great to give financially, and don't ever hear me as a pastor ever say we don't want you to give financially, because of course we do. But the giving that changes lives day by day is the giving of ourselves. The consistent giving of ourselves and investing of ourselves into the lives of people around us. And there's a kind of relationship that normally we call mentoring that I think every Christian is actually called to. So that's the kind of giving in relationship that I think every single Christian is called to. It's the deliberate investment in a person's life, one-on-one or in a small group, where you believe in people and believe that you can make a difference. And I think it's this kind of giving that can really set Christians apart. Because when you invest consistently one-on-one or one to a small group of people over a long period of time, they get to know what's good about you and they get to know what's bad about you. But you get to make a massive difference. One of the amazing things about Jesus and Zacchaeus is that Jesus believes in Zacchaeus. So I just want to finish off by giving you some practical steps about how to believe in someone. And you're like, I already know how to believe in someone. Good. And many of you are already doing this, but many of you know people who don't believe in anyone around you. And so perhaps this is your opportunity to pass some of this on. To be intentional about passing this kind of thing on to others who need to learn how to believe in someone. First of all, if you want to invest in someone's life and show them that you have faith in them and trust them, you need to first of all discover what they're good at in life. You need to know what other people's strengths are. And a lot of the time we know what the people around us, what they're good at. But then remember to praise them for it regularly. Remind them of what they're good at. Remind them of their unique contribution that they have to the world. Because everyone has a contribution to make to the world around us. Everyone is gifted by God to make a difference in some way. But if they don't hear it, they lose the energy for it. The things that you are good at, you will forget that you're good at unless someone recognises you for being good at it. And you won't put any extra energy into becoming great at it if no one talks to you about it. Pick someone close to you, as we talked about last week, pick someone close to you, discover what they're good at, and praise them for it. Because people often don't have faith in themselves, and that's why they don't have faith in others. So if you have faith in someone, you start pointing out what they're good at, this will flow on to the next person. And you need to make this a choice to believe in people, because people can tell when you don't believe in people. People can tell. You know, Jesus went up and said, Zacchaeus, well, I guess I better come to your house. I mean, it's part of my job, I suppose. Being the Son of God, it's my responsibility to go and seek and save the lost. And people can tell if Jesus went around and did that. People can tell if you believe in them or not. So, believe in people. Help them to believe in themselves. Because Zacchaeus and others will live up to your praise of them. Rahab was good at some things. We talked about that last week, and some of you had a little bit of a chuckle about that. Rahab was good at some things. She was especially good at keeping secrets. And she kept these men secret. She then used that for good. Zacchaeus knew that money was important to people, and he was good with money. And then he used that money to make a difference, and immediately Jesus praised him for it. So this man is the son of Abraham. So inspire people to use their skills for good things. The next is instill confidence in people when they fail. There are so many things in life that I've tried and that I've failed at. There are so many things that you have tried in life that you have failed at, especially the first, second and third times that you've tried it. If someone criticises you the first, second or third time you fail at something, there's a good chance you will never try it again, even if you are actually good at it. If you're starting out in something new, and you might even have some talent, but someone nearby says, that was rubbish, that was good, no good, you need to do a lot better, there's a good chance they want to try it again. Failure is part of life, and failure is not sin. Inspire confidence in people when they fail. How do we do that? First of all, they're going to look to the person who told them to do it in the first place, and we need to tell them it's okay. We need to tell them it's part of the process to fail. We then need to help them do better next time, help them win the next time. We also need to help them see what's possible if they get really good at this. This thing that they want to do, this thing that they believe in, this thing that might not have worked the first time, we're going to tell them there's actually some really cool things that are possible if we do this and do it well in the future. Just imagine what things will be like in the future. Next, we need to connect with their heart. So often, people want us to connect with their heart. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they constantly turn the conversation, wanting to tell them something important to you? For instance, you've just been on a holiday, it's a great experience, and you tell them, I've just been to Bali, and the person you tell then says, I went to Bali too, and they spend the next 15 minutes telling you about their trip to Bali. And you're like, I was going to tell you about my trip to Bali. What happens? What happened to our conversation? We think we're connecting with them by sharing our experience. That's not what happens when we do that. We connect with people when we let them share their experience. I bet Jesus didn't go to Zacchaeus' house and give Zacchaeus the whole story about why Jesus is so great. I bet Jesus went to Zacchaeus' house and listened to Zacchaeus about his life and let Zacchaeus share. Laugh, cry and rejoice with someone if you want to connect with them. Find out what's important to them, listen to their jokes, hear their sad stories where their life is broken. And don't try to fix it, because that's probably not what they're after. Rejoice with them when they're successful. The next part of connecting with someone, and this is next level stuff that Jesus does that is so rarely taught in churches. Speak well of them in private and in public. If you know someone who's good at something, tell them. If you know someone who's good at something, tell others. If you know someone who's good at something, tell others while they are there. Because you will make them feel like $1 million as soon as you do that. And they know that you're consistent. We talk about the inconsistency of saying nice things about someone in private to them, but bad things behind their back. But what if we said nice things to them in private and nice things about them behind their back as well? We talk about how amazing they are. Jesus does this with us. Jesus does this about you to his Father in heaven. He talks about all the great things you're doing. He talks about how you're living as a child of God. That's what he does with his Father in heaven, with your Father in heaven. Take the time to listen, finally. We spoke a little bit about this already, but so often, and this is part of the what's in it for me, or what's making it all about me, is that when someone tells us what's going on in their life, we think, well, the reason they're telling me is because I am an expert in their life, and I will share with them my brilliant wisdom about how they can improve their lives. And I know that's what pastors do each and every Sunday, but hopefully I don't do that too much in conversation. Listen to their heart rather than responding with your brilliance, because the thing about listening to someone else's heart is that they get to discover their own brilliance. And then they view you as brilliant as a result. That's what happens. We talk about living a God-changed life. We talk about having a 2020 vision. We talk about wanting to have success or grow or be better. Can I tell you that if you want to live a successful life, and if you want to know what God's picture of a successful life looks like, it's making other people successful. It's making other people better. It's making other people more brilliant. That's a successful life. In fact, more than that, those are the kind of people that we consider to be significant, because they've made a difference in the lives of many. And this is what Jesus demonstrates. As we said earlier, Jesus comes, and for 3 years he invests in a group of three, in a group of 1, John, a group of 3, Peter, James and John, the group of 12, the 70 and the 500. That's who Jesus spent most of his time with. You can see it through the Gospels. And in that, he constantly invested his life, his energy, in believing in the ability of these people to make a difference in the world. And it's because of Jesus' faith in them that they were then able to go and do it. And yes, Jesus sent the Holy Spirit, and just as Jesus sends to you the Holy Spirit. But Jesus believes in you and your ability to believe in people and have faith in and trust people. There's a saying, to go fast in life, go by yourself. If you want to achieve success quickly, do it by yourself. If you want to achieve anything, go by yourself. Make it all about what you can do in your strength and your power. And there are churches that grow fast, and it's all based on the pastor or one key leader's ability to make it all happen by themselves. But if you want to go far, go together. If you want to make an impact in the world and share God's love with people, do it with people. Love them. Believe them. Invest in them. Mentor them. And learn how to do it better.